and welcome to your yoga practice for today. Today we are going to do Yin Yoga. And Yin Yoga is a supported practice where there isn't really a lot of muscle energy required. Instead, we use time and gravity to slowly and gently open the hips and the spine. Yin Yoga really works best on the areas of the hips and the spine. So we'll be working in 7 movements today in which we're going to hold the pose for 2 minutes. And then we'll release and take a short break, just long enough to get into the next pose. And we'll hold that for 2 minutes. I am going to not require, but recommend that you have some props available to make the poses more accessible should you need them to be. So the first thing is I recommend yoga blocks like this one or large books like textbooks. And I'll show you during the practice how you may choose to use them should you need that support. The other thing that I recommend is to have a couple of pillows, and these are just throw pillows from my couch, and they offer really nice support for your hips. There is one pose that is in this sequence that may not be the best pose for your knee or your hip, and that's pigeon pose. So when we get to pigeon pose, which is, it follows lunge pose, please go to figure 4. So figure 4 is the stretch where we lay on the floor, we cross one ankle over the other, hold it here, or draw it in. So that would be a modification for you. I have my interval timer set, so we will begin. The first pose in this practice is called Baddha Konasana, or butterfly. So you bring the soles of your feet together. They can be away from the body or close to it. You can keep the soles flat or open the feet like a book, whichever feels best. The goal of this pose is to get into the hips and create that external rotation of the hips. So when we do poses like warrior pose, warrior 2, or triangle, it's more accessible. So we're just holding the pose. What you choose to do with your spine or your neck or your shoulders is completely up to you. The goal here is just to let time and gravity open the hips in external rotation. So sometimes it's nice just to close the eyes and breathe and just sort of feel your hips in space. You may decide, if it's reasonable and your spine is happy, that to either round the spine, bringing the forehead down, or lengthen the spine. If you'd rather stay erect, you can roll the shoulders. You can do head and neck circles. Anything that feels good to you while you're letting time and gravity open the hips in external rotation. So whatever feels best for you, that's what you do. Deepen your breath and let the pose happen. Jaws nice and loose, and the breath flows evenly. Feel the hips slowly open. The knees may creep closer to the floor. Bring the hands to the outer knees. Press the knees together. And we're going to prep for the next pose, which is lunge. So bring your right leg forward in a lunge. You can use your left thumb and gently place it in the hip crease and draw it forward. So here's where you can use your blocks or your books. Maybe using a block on each side will give you a nice prop. You place your hands right on top. This is perfectly fine. If you have a little bit more flexibility, you can bring your fingertips or palms to the floor. You can, if it's more comfortable for your knee, tuck the back toes under or keep the top of the foot down. For those of you with great flexibility, you can walk the hands on the inside of the right leg, bend the elbows if you wish. And for its greatest, lunge's greatest expression, you can come into a split. So straighten this right leg right out into a split. That's if the body is asking for it today and if it is reasonable and available in your body. Either way, you're waiting, using patience, breath, and time and gravity to open the hips. Deep breath. What you do with the neck here again is up to you. You can drop the head. That feels awesome. You can keep it neutral. Doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the hips. Gently walk yourself back a little bit. We're coming into pigeon. So I'm going to heel toe my right foot over to the left and gently set my knee onto the floor. So this is a great time. If your right hip's way off of the floor, you can grab your pillow and put it right under your hip and use that pillow to support the hip. You can rock back and forth here. Feels kind of nice to open that a little bit more with a yawn or movement. You can stay perched up like this on the hands. If it's reasonable, you can walk down and rest on the forearms. If it's reasonable still, you can let the forehead rest. So pigeon is really an expression of surrender and breathing past any spaces of hesitation. Remember, if this is too much, go to that figure 4 stretch. That will prep you for pigeon pose. Relax the shoulders. You can let the head hang. Sometimes it feels really lovely in the neck to let it hang. Use breath and time to let that hip open. A lot of times the hips are storage depots for stress, and it's very common for the body to fight back a little bit and want to contract. That's okay. Let it contract and then ease it into releasing for you. And then slowly release, place the hands on the floor, press up, guide that leg back, maybe wiggle the hips a little bit, and coming into lunge on the opposite side. So big step with the left hip, you can stay nice and high, or again, use your thumb, place it right into that hip crease, and gently guide that open. It's gonna feel a little, you'll feel a little something in there after holding pigeon there. Remember, you can stay here, use your books or blocks. You can come to your fingertips or palm on the floor. The back toe can tuck if it feels good. So you're just letting time and gravity work. Remember your options for deeper movement. You can bring the hands on the inside. You can bend the elbows so the forearms reach the floor. The fullest expression is to come into split. Just extend this leg straight forward and coming into split. Wherever you are, you're deeply breathing. You can do anything you want with the shoulders, anything you want with the head. The main focus now is the hips, especially the front of the right leg. So really deepening the hip flexor of the right leg. I like to just close my eyes and let the pose happen. Each time you come back to these poses, the body opens a little bit more, surrenders a little bit more. And nice and easy walking back a little bit, maybe stretch my hamstring. Then I'm going to heel toe the left foot over to the right, place my knee down. And as you can see, this hip is pretty far off the floor. This is my tight one, so I'm going to reach for my pillow. I can even double up that pillow if I wanted to. Once again, I'm going to rock a little bit. This hip resists a lot. So I'm going to do a little rocking, and maybe after about a minute, I'll bring my forearms down. I may not though. So I'm going to use my judgment and the messages that my body is giving me to make that decision. But if it feels good for you, you can bring your forearms down. You can place your forehead on the floor and just rest in this pose. I think my body might be letting go a little bit. I am going to try one forearm. It feels pretty good, so the other forearm will come down. This is probably as far as I'm going to go on this side. I know right now the back of my neck is a little tight, so I'm going to let my head drop. You can decide to do something completely different. The prime objective here is this outer hip, letting that go. And I'm thinking to myself, where can I let go of any tension in my jaw, neck, and shoulders the whole time? And then to release, I place my hands on the floor. I tuck the back toe, slide the back knee in, kind of wiggle my hips a little bit. And let's get out of the hips and back into the spine. So lie on the back. Bring your feet flat on the floor. And let your knees drop to one side. So the arms can be out to the sides, they can be up, they can be down to the sides. I'm letting both of my shoulder blades rest. The goal here is a nice supported twist. So if I wanted to be a little bit more intense and give my body a little bit more of an intense twist, I could bring my knees up together closer to my armpit. Now that's a big movement. And then when I'm there for a moment, I might decide, oh, I don't like that. If I didn't like that, I would drop my knees a little bit farther away from my armpit. So it's whatever feels right. Deeply breathe, and I'm trying to guide both shoulder blades evenly on the floor so I have a nice open chest. And I'm working my arms into sort of a gold post state. So it gives my shoulder, especially my right shoulder, because that's the one that's tight for me, a little bit more of external rotation, which feels nice. It opens the chest and releases some tension in my neck. The head can be so you're facing the ceiling. You can also turn your head all the way to the left or to the right. So play with that. It doesn't affect this rotation of the spine. To come out of this pose, I gently bring the knees center. Take a breath. And then I drop my knee to the opposite side. So I'm going to go a little bit slow. When I hold a pose for a long time, especially a twist to one side, I have to give my spine a tiny little break and go nice and easy. Once again, I can make the decision to keep my knees farther away from my armpit, or if I want more intense of a twist and my body's good with that, I bring it closer to my armpit. Now, if you'll notice, when I brought my knees closer to my armpit, my left shoulder lifted. I want to keep it down, so I'm actually going to put my knees back down. This is the tighter side of my back, so I'm going to make that adjustment. I can keep my gaze toward the sky. I can turn my head to the left or the right, whatever feels best. The arms can stay at goalpost. They can extend all the way out, or they can be up. Again, what you do with your arms right now is inconsequential. Doesn't quite matter. It's whatever you want right now. I'm going to close my eyes again, surrender, and let the pose happen. Let the pose open my body. And perhaps you can even feel your body letting go. Feel any gripping, let go. You can always choose then a deeper option. Nice and easy, bring the knees center. If it feels good, go ahead and hug the knees very softly into the chest. So you don't have to hug really tightly. Just kind of see what it's like. We're going to bring a little bit of movement in. So your choices are just to kind of rock side to side with the knees in. You can even take the knees into some nice wide hip circles. So right now you're being a little bit playful for a couple of minutes. I can also roll my shoulders as my hips roll. And right now, again, you're just sort of playing. You might see what it's like to extend the heels to the sky, maybe even peel the tailbone up. So this is a nice time to explore and see. Any sort of organic movements are really nice after a yin practice. So you can sort of play with the positions of your legs. Play with any types of rotation with the legs. Maybe cross the ankles and grab them with the opposite arm. Any type of movement, just to release that static hold of the yin practice. Yin poses can be held for up to 5 minutes. So if you wanted to do these poses on your own, you could set a timer for 5 minutes. That's when you really feel the effects of a yin practice. But I would recommend slowly moving into that. Go ahead, roll to one side, press yourself up into sitting. Sit with your legs nice and wide. We're going to take a little side bend, because one thing that we didn't do today was a side bend. So reach the arms and side bend to one side. You're not holding this for 2 minutes. Lift again and side bend to the other. Lift again. Maybe see what it's like to fold over your legs. Ease yourself up. Come to a cross-legged position, or you can even lie on the floor and take a rest for a few minutes. But this is the end of your yin practice. Again, I recommend lying and resting on the floor for 2 to 5 minutes. But if you can't, I would like to close the practice with saying namaste.